Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with Derek and Craig. We're going to do some detector talk this morning. Those little half-hour shows and stuff like that. Usually they end up going longer than that, but I hope everybody had a good Turkey Day and everything, good Thanksgiving, and got to spend some time with some family and friends. Craig and I kind of do our own thing or whatever. Did you go over to the barbecue shop? Is that where you hung out yesterday, Craig?
No, they were closed, but the day before I ordered a dinner and picked it up, heated it up myself. So that was pretty nice.
Yeah, we just went over to the post. The guys, the guys and gals over there did a great job. We weren't, we made a few dishes for it, but we got over there for about an hour or two and hung out. And God, my gosh, a lot of people come out just to hang out and have a Thanksgiving dinner. We set it all up and everything, and God, I mean, they had a lot of food. We'll do it again tonight. We do a Friday night dinner all the time, and every week. And we said, well, you know what? We're just going to have Thanksgiving Day leftovers, and everybody can come in and just pretty much, have at it. Had a lot of ham and turkey and stuff. So it's good times. Pauline and I just came back to the house and chilled out, and I went out there working on relics and uh, you know that whole table I have of those old iron relics, cast iron and stuff like that, and just kind of noticing that some of this stuff is quite a bit older, Craig. And we were talking a little bit about this just before the show, and I know a lot of the stuff is probably from like 1880s, 1890s, but I have a few things that are considerably looks wise considerably older, and they're it looks like almost like a hatchet blade, Craig. I don't know. I mean, I have to do some more investigating, but the metal is actually, it's like it's so old and rusted that it's almost delaminating. Like the steel is in layers on this thing. You can see it in the one photo I took of all the stuff. It's on the table right above the other blade. It's like a leather or mason tool blade or something like that, a chisel.
Mm-hmm.
But the other part was I found a tip, like a 4-inch tip of I'm going to call it a Bowie knife, only because I know it's a heavy duty chopping knife, or it's some kind of a sword, one-edged sword blade. I'm almost positive it is. It just has every looks of being a stout, heavy blade, and it's pretty old. It doesn't match the other blade I have on the table, width-wise, or thickness of the steel is different. But I found that handle that's on. It's actually laying on that blade I have laying on a table there. It's just sitting on there. It looks like it kind of would fit, but it's an awful stout handle, made out of, I think it's brass. It's either brass or cast. I haven't kind of looked at that one really close yet, but it may very well go to another sword blade or Bowie knife or something. I find all that kind of stuff interesting, Craig, because that tools and stuff that you kind of have to guess about. What they were used for and everything. That goes right along with relic hunting anyways. So I've just been kind of surprised about what I've been finding because I'm finding so much of it. I know there's coins there. There's got to be coins there. They had money, they had, wealth, whether it be just for, different, these different buttons I'm finding, the saddle parts, they had a certain amount of wealth right there. And I also did what you told me to, Craig. I went and looked at some aerial photos of it, and there's definitely a building that is not there now that was back in 1971. I'm thinking it's the house that's set back farther from where I'm detecting at by about, and it's back behind the new house too. So, but that's the only thing around in the area. I kind of did enlarged it, and it shows the old cattle trail, definitely on the old map. You can see where the ground, how that look is discolored compared to everything else. It went almost along the property line from that big oak, right next to that big oak, right down to the back of John's property, and then it cuts over to the cattle market in Webster there, which is quite a distance. But I also found where the doggone narrow gauge railway. I thought it went out on that state road, and it didn't. It curved up towards Center Hill from Webster. So I'm kind of finding new places and buildings that were there in '71 that not there now. I have no idea what they. It's almost like a train garage. Does that make sense? It's just like it looks like a long, like they'd park a train in it. Maybe they did it for maintenance or something. I don't know. It's not there anymore, but I definitely show it in this photo. I'll have to put it up on Facebook. You'll see what I'm talking about. But it looks like you could park a locomotive in there about, I don't know, it's a couple 100 foot long anyways. And all I can think of maybe is for grain or something. I don't know. It's strange, but I had never seen that before in the other photos I have of Webster and stuff. So, and a lot of these towns in Florida are like that. There's a lot of ghost towns in Florida. And I'm sure, you know, Mark Hoover and a lot of Michael Boyles and Greg Pompano, they all know this and they find these places that heck, we're finding stuff from the 1700s, so I'm not that far off on this place. It's the only one around, so that's where the activity was. So it's kind of one of those things, you just never know what you're going to dig up. Every signal you come across, it could be something like you'd want to keep. I mean, it'd be a great find. So definitely digging a lot. I know that much. I told Pauline, I said, I don't remember digging this much since I got the Bliss tool back in that 2012 when I was doing that other plantation site. I dug hundreds of targets, and this is turning out to be the same way. It's kind of cool. Kind of keeping that excitement going. I like not knowing what I'm going to dig up. But you're doing, you got that. Oh, I wanted to talk a little bit about it. You ordered the, what was it, the 5-inch coil, 6-inch coil for the Equinox?
Yeah. I've been thinking about the 15-inch, but I've been watching Seven and this guy that is down in Tennessee that does Finding America, and he switched to an Equinox a while back, and he's got all 3 coils, and he's going back to sites that he's hunted 3 to 5 years, and where they were just having a hard time getting anything, and it's they're digging 5 or 6 really old coins and buttons and all kinds of stuff, and so he's got this colonial site that he and a friend's been hunting, I guess, for about 5 years, and it was the same thing. It was starting to they were starting to chase iron signals, just hoping to uncover something good, and so he took the 6-inch coil in there, and there's a lot of stubble and stuff, and he's just pulling stuff left and right out of there. It's just amazing. And Seven's also been doing this. I saw him doing a colonial site that he's hunted a long time, and it's there's stubble all over the place. Little bushes and trees and sticks and stuff, and this little coil, can maneuver around in that smaller space. And I got so many nails in my yard, and I've been hunting up the street, and I actually brought the Deus back out a few times recently, and I find that smaller little coil can maybe pick picked a couple buttons out of the nails in my side yard, which are so bad. I'm having trouble. I'm getting a few things with the Equinox over there, but it's starting to slow down. But I can hear all this, all these nails in the ground, and so I know there's got to be more stuff in there. So I'm gonna, and the same with up the street. I've dug, up there that there's part of the lot has been there's no grass, so it's all bare dirt. And it's been every time the rain hits it, it washes, the dirt away. Yeah, and I can see I've seen buttons laying on the ground, but there's also nails all over the place, and some of them are modern and some of them are square nails. And it's funny, some of them are laying on the ground, and the shaft of the nail is not touching the ground hardly, except on the tip, because the water has washed the dirt around it away.
Right.
Just like sitting there, and I got this Mercury dime that was a half an inch deep or less. I think it was less than a half an inch deep, and it was when I went over it with the Equinox, I could just, it was like the narrowest, swing that you could get that signal. If you went over it quick, it didn't, it wouldn't catch it.
Right.
And I was lucky. I kind of got the tone, and I thought, that sounds good. And I looked at the meter, and it was 25, and that's usually a silver dime. So
I think you're going to do well with it, Craig, because it's going to be able to get in between, hopefully get in between stuff. I'd love it if it was a concentric coil. That's probably what you need more than anything else. You got so much.
It's a double D. And,
yeah. I meant just they don't make a lot of concentrics any. Well, it depends on what brand of detector you use. And that cone shape, though, in your yard, in between that metal and those nails, and you could just get right in between everything. It would probably help. I know that I had the 5.3 coil for the White Spectra V3. And man, I could hit some stuff with that thing, and that was more of a concentric, the cone-shaped signal that went down into the ground. And I did very well with that in a trashy area. But a lot of these companies have kind of gone to just the double D, even for the small coils. I don't know. I mean, concentric's considerably more, I guess you'd say, more difficult or more finicky. But for the kind of hunting that that all of us do, then when we get into these colonial sites and stuff, it just seems like it would work better. Because you don't have that blade shaped, you're getting too much surface area with it at a time.
Yeah, the concentric coils always, to me, I used them with the Tesoros when I first started, and especially the Toltec 100, and I had a big 10.5 inch concentric, and I could pinpoint. They had a hole in the middle of the coil, a little one, and I could pinpoint right to that hole. That it was that accurate on pinpointing.
Yeah.
And like when I had the double D coils back then, they were not accurate at all. I mean, it was,
Yeah, they were.
I don't know. And if you had nails in the hole, forget it. It was really hard to.
I mean, that's what's weird about this. These double D. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
It worked a little better than in the mineralized ground with the double D, but the concentric, I could really pinpoint and trash with that thing, and even with the 10.5 inch coil, it was I could like this World War II housing project. I had a lot of pull tabs and stuff in the ground and picked out the silver and the wheat pennies and stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like a scalpel. You can kind of just get right in between stuff. I mean, these new coils are not doing bad. I mean, I've been shocked that so many times I'm detecting and I'm catching these rogue. Well, they're not rogue. I mean, you're getting these signals. They're either really quiet or they're clipping. When you go over, you got iron there, but you got this this non-ferrous in the hole. The target separation is really, getting better on a lot of these new detectors. And I don't know if it's the way they're doing the coils, making the coils what it is, technology in general. But I'm digging more good stuff. I mean, I never thought I was going to dig this much stuff with this detector, this Simplex. I really went into it thinking, okay, hopefully it's pretty good. That's what I, went into it with. All the stuff I've been reading about it, but doggone, it's unmasking stuff. It just kind of, and deep too. I mean, everything I'm digging, I'm usually having to take 2 or 3 scoops out of the ground. Now I'm backing off so I don't scratch anything. I always back off a couple inches and then take another scoop to get up underneath it and pop it so I don't damage anything out of the ground. But I mean, shotgun shells at 10, 11, 12 inches down with a might as well say a $300 metal detector is pretty uncommon. I'm having, and I know we talked about it before the show too and I don't go by VDI numbers. I never suggest anybody go by them, but I mean, it's a tool you use to kind of ID a target when you're digging it. I go by more sound, and I'm getting these good signals, without VDI numbers. Then I'll start getting VDI numbers and I'm thinking, okay, what is this? It's reading up a 20, And here I pull a shotgun shell out, a 12 gauge, old paper round. And then the next one I go and dig, it's jumping between 30 and 65 and, 50. And, but I know it's non-ferrous, so I dig it. It's a 12 gauge shell. And I'll dig another one. And they're all basically the same size. But they're not locking on it because I'm used to hitting them, I don't know, 60s, 50s, 60s, somewhere in there, pretty much high conductor. Not highest, but I mean good medium conductor, where you'd find, buttons at or bullets or whatever else. And it just seems strange to me that it doesn't pretty much lock on at a certain span like a button does. A button stays always within 3 numbers usually of what, like if it's at 50, it'd be, it'd go up to as much as 5 numbers either way. Sometimes on a deep target. These shotgun shells are jumping all over, kind of like what the bottle caps do. It's like it knows it's not good metal or it's not desirable. Maybe it's the surface size. I know depth has a lot to do with it, but it's like when I get them out of the hole, they were even reading those numbers. Like, a 20, the other one would be a 50. And I don't know. It may be the composition of what the material's made out of, maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, brass, brass is, several, it's got copper and tin or something in it. So it might be reading it as an alloy, and it's not,
right,
pure metal. I don't know.
That could be.
The other thing is the shotgun shells are different variations of thin, how thin the metal is in those things, and the ground eats them up, over
True.
time. It might be the corrosion on it, that's affecting the signal. I know, like in the past, I've had signals that read up, in the ground, and then you break the halo, the air
right.
hits it. All of a sudden, it reads, normal.
Yeah, I had a couple like that.
I've had iron do that too, where you got a really rusty piece of junk, and it kind of sounds good and reads on the meter, and then as soon as that air hits it, man, it's like gone.
Well, you see what I'm digging too. I put that video in there, and I dig this chunk. I thought it was a rock. I said, "That's a rock. That's not it." And I said, "Wait a minute here. I'm getting a signal on it. Its stuff is so packed with like this clay. Well, it's not really clay. It's just like sand that's packed in, almost like a rock. You tap on it, and it's really hard. But there was a flue from a wood burner in it. The old school like cooking stove wood burners. Just impacted. That's the way I get a lot of this stuff. This really old stuff is really just encased in this. Then trying to clean it off, even getting it off cast iron, I kind of have to be careful because the cast iron's getting like really pitted or whatever. It's breaking down. It's so old, like 150 years old or something like that. And it's starting to. I have to be kind of careful the way I get the stuff off there because it's almost like a concrete that's not quite adhered to the item, but it's hard enough where you can actually scratch up stuff or mess up the cast iron if it's kind of pitted. So it's weird.
The air just gets to it. It starts working on it after you get it in the air.
Yeah, I'm not cribbing at all. Believe me, Craig, I'm loving every minute of going out there and detecting because it's these sites are I call them, well, they're plantation sites that have been there probably, I don't know, 200 years, and everything is like layered up on top of each other. There's a lot of history there in a small area. But it is a noticeable difference between the eras. I dig 1920 stuff there. That one jar I dug is kind of cute little jar. It's actually from they say late 20s, early 30s. But I was kind of surprised that those jars are actually, some of those jars are worth some money. I mean, I was surprised that, the one I found was like a $20, $30 jar, but something that you get, just find in the ground. I'm not a bottle guy or glass person, but I do find them. And I found I finally found a stone tool. I was digging up a target and I popped this rock out and it just didn't look right. It looks like it has, I think it has 3 or 4 points on it. And it's actually, I'm pretty sure it's a drill, a paleolithic drill rock, whatever. They used it as a tool. It's a stone tool in the same hole as a target. And I kind of happen upon these things. I don't find a lot laying on the ground so much, but I will pop them out. I was sitting there looking at it. Even Pauline, she was sitting down at the table outside with me. She goes, "Let me see that rock for a minute. That looks like something." She goes, "This was a tool. They used to punch holes in something with it." I said, "Yeah, I think it's a drill, a stone drill." And you can see why they got rid of it, because one of the points got broke half off. And it's like, they probably just made another one. And it's probably something they would use, like on leather or, I don't know, wood, trying to drill a hole in it so they can run a piece of, some kind of hide through it or something. So I was lucky enough to find that too, which I knew that area was probably going to have some of that stuff, because I'm finding this really hard, dense Sumter County limestone rock or whatever around. It's almost like flint rock, Craig. It's just got real hardness to it. And that's what these Indians would, the Indians would make a lot of the tools out of way back, not in the Seminole Indian era, but, 100 years before that. So with this big oak tree and all this stuff around that they can make tools out of, it was probably an area to at least sit and make arrowheads and stuff. So I've been kind of really on the lookout for that kind of stuff. And I'm finding plow blades left and right. It's like they tried to plow that small field several times and broken plow blades on it because of the big rocks in there. I mean, we're talking boulder size. These things look like they're about 6 inches across above the ground, and you go to dig them and they're like 4 foot across underneath the ground. So, I mean, they apparently tried to drag and put a crop there, but found out they can't do it, and they just put cattle there, is what essentially happened in there. Even back in the 1970s, you could see them plowing other fields, but not this one. But I'm finding the plow blades, it tells me that they've tried. So I'm kind of dating the site pretty good. I mean, getting layers off. And I'm getting signals everywhere. I know there's coins there. I can kind of almost hear them. But these things are probably 10 plus inches down in the ground by the way the detectors act. And even with the Bliss tool, I could get signals, and I would dig and get like handfuls of nails out and everything. But then I end up finding some kind of piece of copper or brass down in the hole, 10 inches deep. So this is going to be a site that's going to keep on giving, kind of like your yard, I think. John's really excited about it. I was showing him some of the pictures. "My God, you found all that in my pasture?" I said, "Yep, found every bit of it. You want any of it?" He goes, "No, I just like looking at it, though." He didn't even want anything, because I figured he'd want this stuff. I always give the landowner an option. I want to get photos and videos and everything of everything. Of course, when you find a bucket list item, you want to keep it. But I found that, told him about that stone tool and stuff. He goes, "No, I just like looking at them. You can have them, because you'll display them and stuff." I said, "Oh yeah, I'll make a display for everything, and anything that's worthwhile." And I told him, I said, "I want to keep everything I find on your site to show people how much junk they got underneath their feet, and it's junk is treasure to us." So
yeah, I saw a funny one. Well, not a funny one, but the Stealth Diggers did a dig recently, and it was a property they dig about once a year as a group dig, but they turn everything over to the woman that owns the property.
Right.
And I think it was last year, or the year before, they actually dug a pit down about 3 feet deep, and found all kinds of stuff. But anyway, one of the guys had never found a real, and he found a real on the site. He was all excited, and my friend was talking about it, Mike, and he said, "Did you see the guy, look on the guy's face right after he dug it? All of a sudden, his face got kind of like a like disappointed look on it." And I said, "Yeah, because he had to turn that in, But the one thing you're talking about, the limestone and everything, they deal with limestone up there. The whole mountain is limestone, and the same here in the valley in Virginia. But
do you get stuff that's encased like that though?
These little farms, where these little cabin sites, or, cellar holes where they were, basically they were farms, and these guys went out and there was rocks all over the place, and they actually pulled all these rocks out of the ground and put them in piles and made walls and stuff out of them.
Right.
Because they couldn't plow. They would hit these rocks, so they had to remove them in order to be able to farm.
Yep.
So that's how a lot of times they find these little squares. The property has little paddocks.
Little walls, kind of like over in Europe,
yeah.
over in the UK. I see, these walls, rock walls, is because they had to get all the rocks out of there, probably to plow it. Right? Am I thinking right? Or is that?
Plus, it made a good paddock to keep the sheep or the cows or whatever you had, with your livestock. I watch. I've watched Peace Havens over the years, and he's in Yorkshire, England, and that it's just it's a lot of farm, and it's mostly grazing land and stuff, and they got these walls, and I guess he's either 80 or close to 80, and
he's that old. I didn't know he was that old.
Yeah, he's having trouble. He can't get over the walls anymore because he's just physically can't get up and over them. So he's basically kind of retired, I think, from metal detecting, but he's still doing some videos and stuff, and he's got the biggest flax seal and hemp seal site in the world, I guess, and he was finding these Russian bale seals at these mills over in England, and it turned out that it was a trade with flax and all kinds of different things across from the Baltics across to England.
Right.
So they find all these seals. So archaeologists got interested in it, and so he started a site, and then they gave him an assistant that's an archaeologist to help. And so they've got the biggest database. They've actually tracked, back to where a lot of the bale seals have, they have this Cyrillic writing on them. And Peace Havens has been in, he has a farm in Bulgaria, and he's learned to, speak and recognize some of the language and the words, and it's the same as the Russian, a lot of.
Right, there's influence, right.
So he's able to find out the inspector that inspected the load or whatever was coming over, and they'll have like Archangel or Rega or the different ports, and so they know which port it came out of, and it's a lot of information, and the archaeologists love it because this goes back into the 1700s, and
right.
Might even go back further than that. I don't know, but it's pretty amazing. He's the database has gotten to thousands now of these bale seals that are like about 5,000 or something like that.
It's crazy.
So
it's all stuff we find. It's all uncovered history, a story that to be told. If it wasn't for him, that it probably people wouldn't even realize what those things were. Probably, in a way, or making a trade route or whatever. That's an important. It's kind of like
kind of reached out over the last few years, and when he was able to do it, he was actually bringing a crew to these mills, and they were basically all of them looking for these bale seals, and he was always laughing, and he goes, he'd dig a silver coin, and he goes, "Damn, the silver's getting in the way of finding these bale seals." And everybody laughed.
Doggone silver.
A lot of these places where they were making all this stuff were orphanage. Basically they had child labor, and they had a terrible history of that back, way back. They had these orphans, and there's basically no money on the sites. A lot of times, they gave the kids lead tokens. They didn't even give them real money.
Yeah, lead too. On top of that.
Yeah. So I mean, it kind of tells you, it wasn't so nice back in those days for a lot of people.
Well, yeah, I mean, even over here, orphanages and stuff like that. You just it was just, I mean, it was the times. I mean, it's just one of those things that really sucked in our history and a lot of other countries too. The child labor and everything. It's like, slavery or whatever else. At the time it was bad and really bad now if you look back on it. So.
It's amazing how far we've come in 200 or 300 years to
right.
The luxury we've got now compared to what people had, back then. I read this thing where, people didn't take baths, but like maybe twice a year and stuff, in some of these areas because you just
they didn't have water or a water supply or soap or whatever.
I read one thing where some people, they took a bath and then they got a pneumonia.
Well, yeah, I'm sure. And then dealing with the water supply, dysentery, and all these other kind of weird parasites, and I'm sure it was bad back then too. I mean, especially down here in Florida, the water. I mean, you hear about people getting parasites now just from swimming in the rivers and stuff like that. But, back. The mosquitoes, we have them not controlled, but I mean, a lot better than it was. And the amount of disease and dysentery, everything else you can think of, Craig. Well, the Civil War was a perfect example of that. Those prisons and stuff like that. My God, that was horrendous. But, back then, what did they do? It was just, nobody been in that situation before.
Well, if you look at war, most of the prisons are, some of the worst in history, and
yeah.
Look at the Nazis and the Korean War, and different older wars. They just, the prisoners they didn't really care about them that much,
No, of course not. Yeah, they were the enemy.
They do now. I mean, but it's just it just shows you how history is. Things have gotten better. Everybody's always saying, everything's going to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah, it's better than it was.
I think, since I was a kid, everything seems to have gotten better. I mean, people are more prosperous. We seem to have better food. All this technology. You can't make everything perfect, but I think, the standard of living in the United States has definitely increased.
Well, definitely we're healthier. You think about in the 1800s, Craig, if you lived past 30, you were doing pretty doggone good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was, now people are living to be, most of my, people that I know and stuff are all in their, 70s, getting into 80s. I mean, I have one, old Gino, I mean, he's a Korean War vet, and this guy, he's 80, I think he's 86 years old, and gets around and drinks with the best of them and everything, and, he's a funny guy, has a lot of stories to tell and everything, but he's really active. I mean, I tell him that all the time. I hope at 86 I'm getting around half as good as you are. He goes, well, I'm just going to go until I don't go no more, but I'm going to have a 90th birthday party. I'm already planning it out. And this guy knows everybody. I mean, all these music, like Willie Nelson and all these ones. He knows all these guys and used to tour with them and stuff. And the stories I get from him, I mean, it's funny. But, but Gino's the kind of guy you can sit down at a bar, just BS with him, and it's all good. He's not all stuck on himself or nothing like that. But heck, he's 86 years old. I'm thinking, man, I hope I do that good. And, because hell, I'm only going to be 50 next year. And he goes, oh, you're a baby yet. I said, yep. So, but I think it's, just staying active and getting done. But, Gavin wanted to know, is that 6-inch coil that you're getting for the Equinox, is it a solid coil or is it got open spaces?
It looks like a baby 11-inch coil.
Okay, Gavin. Baby 11. Well, the reason I know why Gavin was getting that too, corn stubble would be nice to have a solid. But
one thing, the guy that's Finding America was saying, it's light as it makes. He said the Equinox is so light to begin with, but you put that 6-inch coil, it just glides across the ground.
Yeah, it's probably like 2.5 pounds now or something like that. Anyway.
The coils are much lighter on those machines than some of the ones that I've had in the past.
Yeah.
I remember I was telling somebody the Explorer had, very heavy coil on it.
Oh yeah.
It's much thicker and, just much more solid. The ears were a lot more solid too on the Explorer. I was looking at it, after I had those ears break on the Equinox. I got the other coil, the other detectors, and looked at the ears, and the Deus is, they're fairly thin, but it seems like the plastic is tougher on it. But that's the problem with the Equinox, and it's a problem with all their coils. From what I'm hearing,
the first thing I looked at on the Simplex to see they had pretty thick coil ears, so I haven't any problem out of that part of it.
I've seen people actually reinforcing like the CTX 3030 coils,
right,
and the Equinox coils,
what I can't figure out, Craig, is why are they we probably have some Mind Lab people on their works there. Maybe they can answer the question. Why in the world won't they make those coil ears bigger on these newer machines? I mean, if they know it's been a problem in the past, or maybe they are using a stronger material. I don't know.
They'd have to retool, and they probably, to me, it looks like the ears are the same as the ones they've used on the CTX coils.
Yeah, I mean, because you can widen them out towards the edge of the coil, leave the center diameter or whatever proper, so that the detecting shafts will fit in there. Just make the other side of it a little. It just seems like it'd be an easy fix for a molding machine to mold those covers. I don't know. Maybe I'm not thinking about it right, but I noticed that some of the companies. I remember the Marco Racer or whatever that thing. I snapped that coil ear the first day I used it. But like the Nokta Macro, I mean, they've changed up everything. This coil, I mean, even the detector shaft has a flex to it, Craig. If you put the coil directly down on the flat on the ground, and you kind of put some pressure on it, the detector shaft will move. It's flexible a little bit. But when you swing it side to side and hit stuff, you don't feel any wobble in it. I mean, they're coming up with better products. It's also plastic, not... Well, the lower shaft is a polymer. It's not as stout or whatever. It does have flex in it, but it's a good kind of flex. It's more or less if you were standing there trying to dig and you lost your balance and you put pressure on that coil and that detector itself, it actually flexes. It doesn't want to snap, which is good for a big guy like me. I lose my balance a little bit, and you put pressure on the edge of the coil while the coil ears are holding up nice. It's also it's almost like a wing nut bolt, where the one side where you tighten the coil bolt up, it's got the wing nut, but on the other side the other side of that bolt is like an L shape, and once you get one side tightened, you can tighten the other with the other hand, and really put a nice tension on that. You don't want to tighten it too much and break the bolt, the neoprene bolt, but it gives you enough tension where that coil, you can keep it nice and level pretty easy. Kind of like the Bliss tool, Craig. It just works that way, where you just bump it on the ground where you want it and start swinging it again, so you can keep your coil nice and level to the ground. I'm just not sure why they didn't do that with the Equinox. I mean, because it was a new... Maybe they didn't think about it. I don't know. These engineers, a lot of times, engineers are great, but the people that use it,
I think they're just saving money is what they were doing, and instead of but that's minor compared to.
Oh yeah, it is.
A lot of other stuff. I
just thought it was an easy fix.
Yeah, I'm a little more careful with it now, and one thing is I had the coil kind of. The wire kind of tight, and when I set it on the ground, it pulled, and broke it as happened. But I've never broken an ear. And that's my 47th machine. So
right. I try to keep that coil cable just snug.
I got to replace so. They definitely, are making good on it, but
that's
the only complaint I wish about it, but and I also wish they, allow third-party coils to come out. People have been talking about that too.
Well, I mean, they're coming. At least they're making some for them. Stock coils. The 6 inch or whatever. And at least they're making them. It's not like they're already talking about that for the Simplex, getting a 4 inch coil or something, which or they were talking about on the Nokta site. I think we got to get used to the machine yet and everything, and figure out what it's doing. It definitely has some depth. I can't believe that I can believe it. The new machines get better depth, but they were designed to do that. That's one of the improvements that they made with all this new circuitry, I'm sure. The VDI number's a little bit better. I don't worry about the depth. I have to look at that depth thing better. They don't put a number, Craig, like 4 inch, 3 inch, whatever. It's kind of like this little scale, but when you pinpoint with this machine, it has a separate icon. I think it's like a bullseye thing. And when the item is shallower, it'll give you a finer bullseye. Like this farther in on the circles or whatever. And when it's deeper, the bullseye gets bigger. So it's almost a depth gauge in itself. I mean, but it also doesn't tell you whether it's a small item or a big item. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things I need to work with this tomorrow when I go out with it.
Most meters are like that. They're trying to figure out a coin size object, and if it's not a coin size, or a different shape, then it's not going to.
Right.
It's not going to read as the same.
Well, I don't really use it except for investigation thing. That's the only time I use that kind of stuff. You can pinpoint with this machine just fine, like you would the Blisstal, and like you would an Equinox. Or once you know where it pinpoints at, you just kind of scan it both ways, and boom, that's where the target is. So.
Yeah, I've been in real heavy iron with the Equinox, and you get a signal, a good signal, and then there's iron around it, and then you go to pinpoint, and you start pinpointing toward the big iron instead of the good signal.
Right.
You don't hear the iron as well in discriminate, but in all metal, it's grabbing it. It's a couple times I've dug and then I've checked the hole, and the discriminant signal is not in the middle of the hole; it's on the edge, and so I have to redig. So sometimes, if I can tell that there's iron in the hole, I'll actually discriminate. I'll use discriminate to pinpoint.
Yeah.
Rather than all metal, but that's I don't know. It's you can actually go real slow, real short swing and pinpoint pretty well with that coil.
Yeah,
even the 11-inch coil.
They seem to do a very good job at that. The recovery delay is good. The unmasking is good. They got a good thing going with that Equinox. I mean, I'm liking the Simplex. It's not going to be as good as the Equinox is, I don't think, but Equinox can do. But it's a higher price machine. It can do more. I mean, for what it is, for what the price is, I don't mind using it. I really didn't think I was going to like this thing as much as I do. And I haven't even started with settings, Craig. I can amp this thing up. I know I can. And we were talking about the other day about turning down the iron volume and working with some different stuff to really make this thing punch. But it's punching good in the ground. Hell, it's better than the Quest Pro was. I know that for a fact. I mean, I use that Quest Pro enough, and I'm like, it was a good detector. I liked it. If you have one, it's not, it's not a bad detector to have at all. I was surprised that a $300 machine would outperform it. As far as I'm concerned, anyways, it outperforms it. So, I'll just have to see. But yeah, all I've been pretty much doing when I'm hunting is turn on the machine, turn the sensitivity to about half, 3/4, and hunt. That's it. I'm not ground balancing really or anything yet. So, and if it can do that right out of the box, I'm like, heck yeah, that's good for a brand new user that doesn't know anything about settings and how to get them good. So I'll get out of the box, so to speak.
I think it's great they've come out with a quality machine for this price, because I think it's going to kill the rest of the market. It's going to force everybody else to come down on the price.
Improve their machines. I mean, that's what it should be. Competition is good for a buyer standpoint. They're going to start coming out. This is the first time we've seen the competition with the money.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's definitely a $700 range detector. I mean, I think, anyways.
Yeah, $600-700.
Yep,
probably.
You know, and there's
based
some
on
things
what we,
even I watched a couple of videos with the AT Pro, and with the there's some stuff the AT Pro can do better. Every metal detector will find you something. Every metal detector does certain stuff good. And I never want to make people think that I'm trying to beat up an AT Pro or whatever. I mean, dang, that's a best-selling metal detector there probably ever has been, most sold or whatever. And it's still a good detector. A lot of guys still use them, and they get great results. Or using aftermarket coils and everything. But to have a $300 machine can at least compete with it and surpass it in some ways, that's actually pretty good for us as detectorists. So.
Well, when you look at the AT Pro and you look at the Simplex, the Simplex looks like a modern,
right.
high tech, just the look of it. The AT Pro doesn't. I mean, it's an older machine. It's been around for a long time, and it's a lot heavier too.
I see them redoing that machine. I think they come out with the 18 Max and all that stuff, but they
basically just bump the sensitivity up, and
right.
I remember Mike and I were metal detecting in the yard about a couple years ago, and there were some guys. There was a guy next door to us didn't have a fence up, so we could see into the parking lot over at the restaurant. And I remember this guy got out of his car, and all of a sudden I looked, and he's over by the fence, and he's yelling over. And so when I went over to talk to him, I noticed he had a AT Max hat on.
Uh-huh.
So I said, "Oh, you got an AT Max?" And he said, "Yeah." He goes, I just switched. I had an AT Pro, and I just got a Max." I said, "How you like it?" And he goes, "I don't know, man." He says, "I'm almost thinking about selling it." He said, "It's very noisy."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, from what I hear, you got to turn the sensitivity down a little bit. You can't, it's got extended sensitivity compared to the AT Pro, but I said you might want to try turning it down a little bit, because I said the EMI, is going to affect it.
Right.
It's got higher sensitivity to it, and that's going to be affected by EMI, and you may not be able to use it cranked all the way up, in certain situations, But I said, it's a brand new machine. I just, was wondering. I'm hearing good things about it, But
yeah. Well, it's just I don't know, some machines, and I get what he's saying. It's like, it's all well and good to have the sensitivity bumped up. Everything needs to be bumped up on it. You need, he has adjustment room, but some machines I've bought, Craig, they're good and everything. It just they're not all that to me. I guess a lot of it's preference. I'm into the performance part of it. I really don't care what they look like, but with some detectors, they look good and they act good, or whatever they do. They handle the ground. They find you, give you better information and everything. You got to go with them. I mean, see where they're going to take you, and until the next detector comes out. I mean,
I think with the Equinox and now with the Simplex, the whole thing has changed. Nobody's going to want a heavy machine. They're going to demand collapsibility and a nice meter like these things have. They're going to want wireless headphones. It's just a whole different world now.
Well, I'm taking this thing to Florida Hunt 6. I'm gonna take it to the hunt. I feel pretty confident with the machine. I'll have enough time using it to tell you for sure. But usually I take the Bliss tool out to those kind of events. But I feel pretty comfortable taking this one. Or hell, I'll let my mom use it or something like that when she likes to, if she wants to try to metal detect, because I'm getting deep items, Craig. Hell, that button was pretty deep, 11, 12 inches down in the ground. I don't worry about depth. I really don't worry about target separation, because there's so many dead giveaways with this machine as far as nuance and the type of tones and the gravelly ones and the sharp ones and the tweaks. There's a lot of information in the sound on this machine, and that sounds like what the Equinox does for you. I hear your videos and I can hear the differences in even over the video of what you're dealing with. That sound is everything. Your ears are very much tuned to difference. You get a solid tone, you can hear a tweak in there, and it's like, okay, well, and more often than not with the Simplex, it's been a good non-ferrous item, or a good iron item, and not just scrap. I mean, it was actually made. I don't know. I haven't figured that whole deal out yet, but then again, I've only used the machine, 3 or 4 times now. But I'm hunting with it for like 6 hours straight. I'm like, this has actually got my interest, so we'll see.
Well, it's pretty good right out of the box. You start finding stuff.
Oh,
and you
my
don't
God.
even know how to use it.
I think everybody's having the same experience, though, Craig. I was looking on the Nokta official site or whatever. These guys are finding hammered coins with this thing. They're finding, whatever. I mean, they're finding all kinds of stuff with it, and a lot of them seem like, they're probably guys like me that have, over 10 years experience, or even younger ones. I mean, it's unmasking items, and they're finding hammered coins and everything else with this thing, and it's just locking on them. I love the nuance to it. I guess I'm just shocked still that I've actually, I didn't think I was going to like this detector as much as I do. I mean, I was actually going to wait to buy one. I'm glad I got my hands on one now, because it just gives me a little bit of time with it to kind of figure it out, maybe help somebody else out with the machine. I think that's why I put those videos up more than anything else, to get them an idea of what they're dealing with. Because hell, half the country's snowed in right now, so they're not going to be doing much detecting until, whenever. I don't think this stuff is going to melt off too fast.
Yeah, they've already had. I was watching Green Mountain metal detecting. He's in Vermont, and they had snow, before Thanksgiving.
Yep. Yeah.
He says sometimes they'll get they'll get a little warm up, and they may be able to get back out. But I was watching Stealth Diggers last night, and they're running into some snow too. And
right,
the higher the altitude, the more snow.
Elevation.
And they're basically hunting like in the mountains.
Well, you get into the woods, the ground's not frozen, but if you live in upstate Ohio or Pennsylvania, New York, Michigan, I mean, that lake affects snow. You're getting you get smacked. I mean, overnight you might end up with 2 foot of snow, 3 foot of snow, and you're just, you're done. There's not very many people that can, you can't use a detector. You can't even, I remember sometimes in Erie that, I was out deer hunting and I was in waist deep snow, trying to make it over to an area, and animals aren't moving or anything. You're not going to metal detect in that kind of crap, so you're kind of stuck until, like you said, like it melts off a little bit, but, now's the time you guys need to be cleaning stuff. It's a cleaning season.
I was hunting outside yesterday, and it was about 40, 42, but it was like a 30-mile-an-hour gusts, and it was like 20, steady 20, 25 with 30, 35-mile-an-hour gusts. And
feels like 10 degrees.
I was dressed for it, but my hands, every time I dig, I take my gloves off. I don't like
me neither. Yeah,
scooping the dirt out with my hand. I like being able to feel what I'm doing, but it was like my damn hands kept getting so cold. God, I was like, it's killing me. My feet were fine. My head was fine. I like these earphones. The MindLab earphones are pretty good. The wireless one that keep my ears warm. So,
well, that's one thing about the Simplex. I haven't even started using headphones yet. I've been leaving the speaker on because I want people to hear what it's doing. But I said it in my video. Man, I got to get my headphones on. I know all these are signals. I know they're all signals right through here. I can hear them, and I can hear the different pitch changes, and they're just a little bleep, but it's not falsing. Those are all signals in the ground. I'm like, I got to get my headphones on. But how do you do that and still do the video? It becomes a different video then. It pretty much will be defined. And so I was trying to keep it, because I know that a lot of new people are going to be buying this machine. I mean, it's keyed to an entry level crowd, and it's a good machine to buy if you're getting into the hobby, because by God, it's going to help you at least understand it.
It's got the biggest buzz right now of any machine. The Equinox is pretty good, but it's been out for a couple years now, and so people know it more. I think that the exciting thing about the Equinox is, with these software thing with the Simplex. That's another game changer where you can basically, update your machine without having to buy a new one.
Yeah, I haven't even done the update yet. I've only heard one bad thing about the Simplex, and it's one person got his, and I think it was over in Europe, and he got one of the old coils somehow. Whoever he bought it from, whenever he bought it, he got one of them, and he can't even air test on a quarter from 6 inches away, and everybody on there saying that's definitely a coil problem. And
he had a bad batch.
Yeah, he must have got one of the bad batch. Yeah.
So some of the English guys, I guess sent them, and they basically pulled them out. They know which batch they came out of, so they fixed it. But
yeah, when I got my coil, my detector, it has a new coil on it. You can tell because it has an extra. It doesn't have the extra stabilizer inside. Whatever. It's part of the coil, but it looks different. And I think this guy somehow ended up getting one of these detectors that probably bought it from a dealer that had one of these original ones, and then he bought it and there was a problem with it because that's the only time I've heard anybody say anything bad about it. And everybody's there's like 35 comments on that one saying, hey dude, you need to send that back, that somehow you got the old one, the new one's not doing it, because mine's not falsing, it's not, I'm banging into stuff, it's not even how the Bliss tool or the Deus, or I don't know if the Equinox does, you bounce off something and the coil sounds off. It's not doing it. I'm scrubbing ground, scrubbing through brush, sticks, banging it on the ground. It's not making any kind of falsing, which is really cool. It enables me to get into that grass a little bit and scrub down into the, that like 6-7 inch tall grass, and trying to scrub the coil down into there. It's doing a pretty good job of that.
It's not the worst than a bunch of falsing, in that kind of situation.
Yep, and I got the coil really wet too, because they said it was wet grass that was causing falsing. You could see the water on the coil and dirt and everything else, and it wasn't causing it any problems. So they've solved that coil problem with this new, these machines coming into the U.S. anyways. So,
I saw a thread on a British site, and they were talking about, they caught it quick, and it was just one batch of coils that somehow, were, coils, you got to, tune those things, and, maybe they didn't get the tune right, or maybe the mold wasn't exactly,
or could have had a seal problem. It wasn't sealed and the moisture got up in there. It could be anything. Coils, I mean, even like White's coils or whatever, if they get out of null, there's an issue the way they were pressed together, or it's not something they do on purpose. It's not an engineer. It's just crap happens, guys. I mean, it does, and at least they saw it and they took it on, and they said they got all those back, made all new coils. They knew it was going to cost time, as far as getting the machine out there to people, but they'd rather do it now than wait until later and have to replace them individually, which I hats off to them, which is good.
You wait till later and you might lose your business.
Yeah, people get pissed, and, they did the right thing as a detector company and said, hey, we have an issue, let's take care of it. And, it's something that I would, pretty much like Minelab or White's or any big company would do, Garrett, they would stand up.
It's pretty much any electronics you got nowadays,
right.
Doesn't matter what company or what kind of electronics it is, you pay big bucks for it nowadays, and you expect this stuff to work, and if it doesn't, the company can lose it overnight, and
well, we've seen it happen with some companies, and not just metal detecting companies, and electronics, man. You got to make sure the stuff works. I will throw something against a wall, and just buy something and get so mad at myself if it, like those headphones, Craig, that we had, the wireless headphones. They couldn't tolerate or stomach that under normal use they'd break so easy. I'm like, this is not good. This is not going to work for people. I sell these things, and it's like, the technology was good, it worked great. But when you can't plug something in without breaking a piece off the board, that's a design error. I'm not selling those things. So, I'm actually trying to, I still got to sit in the office, and I'm like, well, maybe I'll just give them away as gifts for Christmas or something. But then I'm thinking, man, if they break the first day, they're going to get pissed at me for sending them something that will break. So, I don't know. I'm parting them out. I'm going to use the. Well, I found out that you can actually put a battery on these Simplexes, and I have to check into that to make sure. But it's you can bring a battery with you and charge off of those regular cell phone batteries things, jumper boxes, whatever you want to call it, the small ones. And I think they said you could run off of those too. But I want to do some more research because I got I got 6 batteries the size of a business card, or maybe a little bit bigger. Well, you know the ones, Craig, that come with the wireless headphones. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if the Equinox would do it too, but it's a battery backup that you can plug right directly into the machine, and you can plug it into your cell phone, whatever. It has a different adapter. But you can, when your battery goes dead on your cell phone, you can plug this thing in and you can just run for as long as you want. And I saw Ahmed doing this with his iPhone, so I know you could do it with yours. It's just finding the adapter that works with it. But
it'd have to have a USB plug.
Yeah, you have to get some kind of different wire. Yeah, it's another jumper line. But anyway, it's 8 o'clock, Craig. I guess we should probably end the show now since it was a half an hour show. We get talking too much is what it is. But anyways, guys, like and follow the show. Thanks, Gavin, for being on this morning. I know the rest of the guys, they're probably recovering after Turkey Day and everything on Thanksgiving over here yesterday. Y'all be safe out there. Make sure you like and follow the show, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow night. Hopefully I'll get out and do some detecting. Maybe Craig will too, and we'll find a pot of gold or something like that. It'd be nice, or just a $20 gold piece.
Well, I'm pretty sure that the 6-inch coil is coming today, or it's already here, and so if it is, that's going to go on the machine, and I'm going to be hunting with it today. So,
good. I want to see it, how that works out.
Information tomorrow. Yeah,
definitely.
So, stay tuned to see what happens.
Yeah, no doubt. Stay tuned for the next episode. All right, guys. Well, you have a great Friday, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow night on Hardcore Metal Detecting. Catch you later.